In our gospel story, it's the women, the early disciples, who run to the tomb. It is early in the morning, probably still dark. They go there because it is an act of reverence, but an act of faith. For in their religion, their tradition, after one has died, they will anoint the body. It is a sign of respect, of admiration, homage to the goodness of this person. And surely for these women who knew of the gentleness of Christ, saw the brutality of his death, they would try in some way to make up for that harshness by the quiet gathering, by the simple anointing of his body. That's why they went. They were going to go to the place where they knew he was, that place of death, the tombs, for that's where they had laid him. That's where he had died. That's where they had put them. But when they get there, the stone, not rolled across as it should have been, is gone, off to the side. And they look inside, and there the tomb is empty. What has happened? Where is his body? Even this indignity, must they suffer it? Have they taken his body so that no one could honor it? That even there they would be so brutal as to now allow them to even show him the gentleness, the care, the comfort of their faith? And then they hear another voice, one who stands next to them, and tells them, "Do not be afraid," or "Quiet yourself." Aren't you surprised that those who had heard him say that destroy this temple, pointing to his body, and I will raise it up, did not understand, for they had gone to a place they knew was a place of death. They could not see anything more. They're terrified. Why? Why are they struck with fear? Why not joy, rejoicing, as we are? Because they could not imagine. They could not imagine that in a place of death there would be life. They could not imagine that out of a place of entombment could come new beginnings, new hope. They could not imagine it. And because of that, they are struck with fear. They will run back and tell the other disciples, as you know, he is not there. And the disciples will have to go for themselves to see. They cannot imagine this happening. I think this Easter day, all Easter days, are really about times for you and me to imagine a way of life differently than the one we've been living, differently than the one we thought we could live. What could happen if we would not look at places of death as where we're trapped, but like this tomb, know that it is open for us on this day, and we can find new hope, new ways of living. You do not have to go back into the tomb. You can, with this power, with this day, imagine something differently. What happens to many of us? Because we cannot imagine something, we stay in those tombs. Some of us have those tombs of unhealthy relationships. Relationships that have robbed us of our dignity. Relationships that do not honor the goodness God has implanted within us. Relationships that in word or action are abusive or harsh. Relationships that do not lead us to know the goodness of God, but in fact take us further away from God. And yet, because we cannot imagine a life without that relationship, we stay entombed. We stay in a place of death, not life. Some of us, too, cannot imagine a life where we are free from the resentment and the anger I hold. Someone's words have embittered me. Someone's actions have hurt me. They are real. They are evil. But what has happened to me is I have allowed myself to be consumed with a rage or anger toward them. I have robbed myself of a future of joy, of hope and promise, because I can't imagine letting go of that hurt, letting go of that resentment, and moving beyond it. Not that I excuse or dismiss the harm that was done. I just don't allow it to continue to inflict harm on me. And because I can't imagine it, I stay in that tomb of anger, resentment. For some of us, I cannot imagine a life without that past that dogs me, that haunts me. I know what I've done in the past. I know how I've sinned or failed others. I regret some of the things I have done and how I have acted and how I have harmed or hurt people. I cannot go back and undo it, but I can regret it. So much so that I feel unworthy. I feel somehow everybody else who sits around me is good and holy, and I'm not. If they only knew, I think. I'm captive of that past. So captive, I never feel fully loved by God, never fully embraced by God's goodness. And although I have sought mercy and been bestowed on it with absolution, I can't forgive myself. And because of that, because I cannot imagine it, I'm entombed in forever, reliving the past and never feeling worthy of the God who rose this day from the tomb. I'm still in that tomb. I stay there. And maybe it is that I'm in a tomb of little faith, of no trust and no hope at all. I'm there because I prayed to God and God didn't answer. Why would I pray again? I feel betrayed. I feel abandoned by my God. Why didn't He stop that from happening? Why didn't He intervene when I needed Him? Why was that one I love not able to overcome their illness? And so I feel somehow that God is not listening. But I have forgotten the other days of this Holy Week. I have forgotten the wood of the cross on Friday. The wood that said, I love you this much that I will die for you, you alone. I love you this much that I will sacrifice for you, that I will pour out my love for you. Have we forgotten all the ways God has loved me? All the ways God has been with me? I have hurt, but I need to know where to put the hurt. Not in any way away from Christ, but bring it to the cross of Christ where resurrection is possible, new life can begin. Don't go back into that tomb of hopelessness and a lack of trust. Come out of that and know the joy of resurrection and new life. So it is this day that we are called to imagine a new life. Just as those women were called to imagine life coming from a tomb, you can have life in places where you thought impossible. What are you stuffing back into the tomb? What are you holding back in there that needs to come out? This is a glorious day, but it's a day only if we celebrate it in true freedom. Do not allow yourself to be entombed. Just imagine the goodness of this day and the goodness Christ offers you and the power He brings you by coming out of that tomb.